Rewrite your bloodline. Break generational limits. Build a legacy of wealth and success. Written and published by Rising Audiobook. Introduction. Before you were born, a story was already being written around your name. A story shaped by struggle, sacrifice, silence, fear, hope, and survival. Some families pass down wealth. Some pass down wisdom. But many pass down something else, wounds, limits, and beliefs that quietly decide what each generation thinks is possible. Maybe you have seen it in your own life. The same financial stress, the same self-doubt, the same broken patterns, the same unfinished dreams. And for a long time, you may have believed that this was simply your fate, that you were meant to repeat what came before you, that your starting point was also your ending point. But that is a lie. You are not here just to survive your bloodline. You are here to rewrite it. This book is not about pretending the past did not happen. It is about facing it, healing from it, and refusing to let it define the future. It is about becoming the first person in your family to think differently, choose differently, build differently, and live differently. Because one decision can interrupt generations of limitation. One disciplined mind can create a new standard. One courageous life can become the beginning of a legacy that outlives you. And if you stay until the end, you will discover how to break the cycle, build real wealth, and become the turning point your family has been waiting for. Let's begin the journey. Chapter 1. The day you decide your family story changes. Every great family legacy begins with a single decision, not a lottery ticket, not a miracle, not perfect timing, a decision. Long before anyone sees success on the outside, something changes on the inside. There comes a quiet moment when a person looks at the life they have inherited and says, "This is not where my story ends." That moment is where bloodlines begin to change. Perhaps you grew up believing that success belonged to other families. Maybe money was always scarce. Maybe arguments were common, dreams were discouraged, or education was treated as a luxury instead of an opportunity. You may have heard phrases like, "People like us never get ahead," or "Life has always been this way." At first, those words sound like simple observations. But over time, they become beliefs. And beliefs become decisions. Those decisions become habits, and habits eventually shape entire generations. The truth is that every family passes something down. Some pass down businesses, others pass down wisdom, discipline, and confidence. But many unknowingly pass down fear, doubt, financial stress, and limiting beliefs. The inheritance you receive is not always visible. Sometimes it is a way of thinking. Sometimes it is a fear of taking risks. Sometimes it is the belief that you are not worthy of more. The greatest prison is not the one built with walls. It is the one built inside the mind. Yet history has shown us something extraordinary. Every family that eventually changes had someone who refused to accept the old story. Someone became the first college graduate, the first entrepreneur, the first homeowner, the first investor, the first person to break free from debt, the first parent to raise children without repeating the mistakes they experienced. That person rarely had perfect circumstances. They simply made a different decision. Many people spend years waiting for confidence before they act. They believe they must feel ready before taking the first step, but confidence is rarely the beginning. Action is. You do not become courageous because fear disappears. You become courageous because you move despite your fear. Every meaningful achievement starts before certainty arrives. Your family history explains where you started. It does not decide where you finish. There is an important difference between understanding your past and allowing your past to control your future. Understanding creates wisdom. Excuses create chains. Your childhood may not have been your choice. Your future is. Accepting responsibility is not about blaming yourself for everything that happened. It is about recognizing that your next decision belongs to you alone. Responsibility is one of the greatest forms of freedom because it reminds you that while you cannot rewrite yesterday, you can absolutely influence tomorrow. Imagine a tree that has grown crooked because of years of strong winds. The tree cannot erase its past, but every new branch still has the opportunity to grow toward the light. In many ways, your life is no different. The conditions that shaped you are real, but they are not permanent. Breaking a generational pattern often feels uncomfortable because you are stepping into unfamiliar territory. You may be the only person in your family who reads regularly, saves money consistently, starts a business, invests for the future, or chooses personal growth over excuses. At first, those choices may seem lonely. People may question you, some may misunderstand your ambition. Others may interpret your discipline as arrogance or your dreams as unrealistic. This happens because change challenges what people have accepted as normal. Do not let temporary misunderstanding stop permanent transformation. Every new standard feels unusual until it becomes familiar. Remember that you are not changing only your own life. Every healthy decision you make creates possibilities for people who come after you. The knowledge you gain, the habits you build, the character you develop, and the wisdom you share become part of your family's future. Your children, nieces, nephews, students, friends, or even complete strangers may one day benefit from a decision you make today. That is the true power of legacy. Legacy is not built in a single extraordinary moment. It is built through ordinary decisions repeated consistently over time. The decision to learn instead of complain. The decision to save instead of waste. The decision to forgive instead of carry bitterness. The decision to work when excuses feel easier. The decision to keep going when progress feels invisible. These choices may seem small today, but they become the foundation upon which future generations stand. One day, someone in your family may tell your story. They may say, "Everything changed because one person refused to repeat the past." Imagine hearing those words decades from now. Imagine knowing that your courage became someone else's opportunity, that your discipline became someone else's security, that your vision became someone else's beginning. This chapter is your invitation to make that decision. Not tomorrow, not when life becomes easier. Today. Because every remarkable bloodline has a starting point. Why shouldn't yours begin with you? Chapter 2. The Invisible Chains You Didn't Choose. No one is born believing they are not good enough. No child enters the world convinced that money is impossible to earn, success belongs to other people, or failure is inevitable. Those ideas are learned. Quietly, repeatedly, over time. That is why the strongest chains are often the ones you cannot see. They are not made of iron, they are made of beliefs. Before you ever made your first important decision, you were already watching the people around you. You watched how they handled money. You noticed how they reacted to failure. You observed whether they solved problems or avoided them. You listened to the words they spoke about life, work, relationships, and opportunity. Without realizing it, your mind was collecting evidence. If you constantly heard, "Money doesn't grow on trees," you may have learned to fear spending instead of learning how to build wealth. If you heard, "Rich people are selfish," success might feel uncomfortable because your mind secretly associates wealth with guilt. If you grew up hearing, "People like us never get ahead," you may unconsciously lower your ambitions before life even tests your potential. These messages become invisible rules. They influence the jobs you apply for, the businesses you never start, the risks you avoid, and even the relationships you choose. The danger is not that these beliefs exist. The danger is believing they are facts. Imagine wearing a pair of glasses with dark lenses since childhood. After enough years, you would assume the world itself was dark. You would never question the glasses because you had forgotten you were wearing them. Inherited beliefs work the same way. You stop seeing them as opinions, you begin seeing them as reality. This is why two people can grow up in the same neighborhood and create completely different futures. Their circumstances may be similar, but the stories they believe about themselves are very different. One person says, "No one from here succeeds." The other says, "If someone has done it before, I can learn how." The environment may be the same. The mindset is not. Your life is often shaped less by what happens to you and more by what you believe is possible. Many families unintentionally pass down scarcity instead of abundance. Scarcity is the belief that there will never be enough, never enough money, opportunities, happiness, or success. When people live with scarcity, they compete instead of collaborate. They consume instead of invest. They focus on immediate survival instead of long-term growth. Scarcity creates fear. Fear creates poor decisions. Poor decisions create another generation that believes scarcity is normal. The cycle continues. But cycles are not destiny. They are patterns, and patterns can be changed. The first step is awareness. You cannot replace a belief you refuse to question. Ask yourself honestly, what did I learn about money growing up? What did I learn about education, about failure, about hard work, about successful people, about myself? Some of your answers may surprise you. Perhaps you avoid asking for better opportunities because you secretly believe you do not deserve them. Perhaps you hesitate to invest because you fear losing everything. Perhaps you work endlessly but never build wealth because you were taught that hard work alone guarantees success, while financial education was never discussed. These patterns are not signs of weakness. They are signs of programming, and anything programmed can be reprogrammed. Changing your beliefs does not mean rejecting your family. It means recognizing that they passed on what they knew. Most parents teach from experience, not perfection. If they feared money, perhaps they grew up during difficult times. If they avoided risk, perhaps they experienced painful failure. If they struggled to express love or encouragement, perhaps no one modeled those behaviors for them. Understanding this creates compassion. Compassion, however, should never become permission to continue unhealthy patterns. You can appreciate your family's sacrifices while choosing a different future. In fact, the greatest way to honor those who came before you is not by repeating their struggles. It is by building on their sacrifices. Imagine your grandparents walking miles to create opportunities your parents never had. Imagine your parents working long hours to give you choices they never received. Their dream was never for you to remain limited. Their dream was for you to go further. Breaking invisible chains begins when you replace inherited assumptions with intentional beliefs. Instead of saying, success is for other people, begin asking, what skills do successful people develop? Instead of saying, I'm not naturally confident, ask, what daily actions build confidence? Instead of believing wealth belongs only to the lucky, study the habits, discipline, patience, and knowledge behind lasting prosperity. Questions open doors that assumptions keep closed. Remember, every belief should be tested. Does it move your life forward, or does it quietly hold you back? If it limits your growth, your peace, or your future, perhaps it is not truth. Perhaps it is simply an old story waiting to be rewritten. The moment you recognize an invisible chain, it begins to lose its power. The moment you challenge a limiting belief, you create space for a stronger one. And the moment you choose a new way of thinking, you give future generations permission to do the same. You are not responsible for the beliefs that were handed to you as a child, but you are responsible for deciding which beliefs you carry into tomorrow. Because the chains you cannot see are often the ones that determine your future, and the moment you choose to remove them, your bloodline begins to breathe a different kind of freedom. Chapter 3. Healing before building. Everyone wants to build something, a successful career, a thriving business, a loving family, financial freedom, a life that future generations will admire. But very few people ask the question that matters most. What am I building it on? A magnificent house cannot stand on a cracked foundation. It may look beautiful from the outside, but eventually the hidden weakness beneath it will reveal itself. The same is true of your life. You can earn more money, receive promotions, buy a bigger home, or gain recognition from the world. But if your heart is still carrying unresolved pain, success may become another way to hide instead of heal. That is why healing must come before building. Many people believe their greatest obstacle is a lack of money or opportunity. In reality, their greatest obstacle is often invisible. It is the fear they never confronted, the rejection they never recovered from, the shame they quietly carried for years, the anger they buried so deeply that they forgot it was still there. These emotional wounds rarely disappear on their own. Instead, they quietly influence every important decision. Someone who grew up constantly criticized may become afraid to pursue a dream because failure feels like proof they were never enough. Someone who experienced betrayal may struggle to trust even the people who genuinely care about them. A person raised in financial chaos may either fear every expense or spend recklessly to escape painful emotions. The behavior looks different. The wound is often the same. Pain that is ignored does not vanish. It simply changes its shape. Sometimes it becomes anxiety, sometimes perfectionism, sometimes people-pleasing, sometimes anger, sometimes an endless desire to prove your worth to people who may never recognize it. The tragedy is that many people spend their entire lives trying to fix external problems while the internal wound remains untouched. Imagine trying to fill a bucket that has a hole in the bottom. No matter how much water you pour into it, the bucket never stays full. In the same way, achievements cannot permanently satisfy a heart that has never healed. This is why some people continue chasing success yet never experience peace. They are searching for outside solutions to inside problems. Healing begins with honesty. Not the kind of honesty you show the world, but the honesty you show yourself. Ask yourself difficult questions. What memories still hurt? Whose words still echo in your mind? What fear keeps you from becoming the person you know you can be? What disappointment have you never truly accepted? These questions may feel uncomfortable. That is because healing often begins where comfort ends. Many people mistake healing for forgetting. But healing is not pretending the past never happened. Healing is refusing to let the past control every decision you make today. You cannot erase painful experiences. You can choose the meaning they have over your future. Some people allow hardship to convince them they are broken. Others allow hardship to teach them they are stronger than they imagined. The event may be identical. The interpretation changes everything. This does not mean your pain was necessary or deserved. It means your pain does not have to become your identity. You are more than the worst thing that happened to you. You are more than your family's mistakes. You are more than every rejection, failure, disappointment, or setback. Your experiences are chapters of your story. They are not the title. Healing also requires forgiveness, not because others always deserve it, but because you deserve freedom. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood acts of strength. It does not excuse harmful behavior. It does not erase accountability. It does not mean trusting someone who repeatedly causes harm. Forgiveness simply means you refuse to carry the weight of bitterness any longer. Holding on to resentment is like carrying a heavy backpack on a journey while hoping someone else becomes tired. The burden belongs to you. When you finally put it down, you do not change the past. You change yourself. Healing also means learning to forgive yourself. Many people remain trapped by mistakes they made years ago. They replay old failures over and over, believing they no longer deserve happiness, success, or another opportunity. But growth has never belonged to perfect people. It belongs to people willing to learn. Your mistakes can become teachers instead of lifelong prison guards. Every lesson extracted from failure becomes wisdom that future generations can inherit. That is how pain becomes purpose. As you begin to heal, you will notice something remarkable. Your decisions begin to change. You no longer react from fear. You respond with wisdom. You no longer seek approval from everyone around you. You develop confidence rooted in character rather than applause. You stop making choices simply to survive today and begin making choices that will benefit tomorrow. This is the quiet power of emotional healing. It transforms not only how you feel, but also how you think, spend, love, lead, and dream. And that transformation reaches far beyond you. Imagine a child growing up with a parent who knows how to manage emotions instead of exploding in anger. Imagine a family where difficult conversations replace silent resentment. Imagine children who are encouraged instead of constantly criticized. Imagine a home where mistakes become opportunities to learn rather than reasons for shame. That is how a bloodline changes. Not only through wealth, through emotional health. Money can buy comfort, it cannot buy peace. Success can earn admiration, it cannot replace self-worth. Recognition can fill a room with applause, it cannot heal a wounded heart. Real prosperity begins when your inner life becomes stronger than your outer circumstances. The strongest families are not those who never faced hardship. They are those who chose healing instead of repeating the pain. As you continue this journey, remember one powerful truth. You are not healing only for yourself. You are healing for every conversation that will become kinder because of you, every child who will grow up with greater confidence because of you, every opportunity that will exist because you chose courage over fear, every generation that will inherit wisdom instead of wounds. Healing is not a detour on the road to success. Healing is the road. And every step you take toward wholeness becomes another step toward rewriting your bloodline. Chapter 4. Becoming the person your family has never seen. Every family has a pattern. Some families have a pattern of resilience, where each generation teaches the next how to persevere through hardship. Others have a pattern of fear, limiting beliefs, financial struggle, or settling for less than they are capable of becoming. Whether those patterns are positive or negative, they often feel normal because they are all we have ever known. But if you are serious about rewriting your bloodline, there will come a moment when you realize that changing your future is not only about changing your circumstances, it is about changing yourself. Before your family can experience a different life, they must first see a different person. The hardest part of personal transformation is that the people closest to you may not believe you've changed. They have known you for years. They remember your mistakes, your fears, and your failures. When you begin thinking bigger, speaking differently, or pursuing greater goals, some people may question your motives. Others may laugh at your ambition, not because they hate you, but because your growth challenges the version of you they have become comfortable with. It is often easier for people to believe you will remain the same than to accept that you are becoming someone entirely different. This is why identity matters more than achievement. Anyone can experience temporary success, but lasting success belongs to people who become the kind of person capable of sustaining it. If your identity remains tied to doubt, procrastination, or fear, every success will eventually feel uncomfortable. You will unknowingly return to old habits because they feel familiar. But when your identity changes, your habits naturally begin to change as well. You no longer act differently because you have to. You act differently because it has become part of who you are. Many people wait until they become successful before believing in themselves. They think confidence comes after achievement. In reality, confidence grows through repeated action long before visible success appears. Every promise you keep to yourself strengthens your self-respect. Every difficult conversation you choose to have builds courage. Every new skill you learn expands your belief in what is possible. Confidence is not something you discover. It is something you build, one decision at a time. Consider the journey of David Goggins, a man who transformed himself from someone overwhelmed by limitations into one of the world's most respected examples of mental toughness. He did not wait for perfect conditions or extraordinary talent. He changed his identity through relentless discipline, refusing to allow his past to define his future. His story reminds us that greatness is rarely born from comfort. It is created by consistently choosing growth over excuses. While your journey may look different, the principle remains the same. The person you become determines the life you build. Transformation also requires letting go of labels that no longer serve you. Perhaps you have spent years saying, "I'm just not good with money. I'm not a leader. People like me never succeed," or "this is simply how my family has always been." These statements may feel harmless, but they quietly become instructions for your future. Your mind works hard to prove your beliefs correct. If you repeatedly tell yourself that success is impossible, your actions will eventually reflect that belief. The moment you replace limiting labels with empowering ones, you begin creating a new identity. This does not mean pretending to be someone you are not. It means becoming the person you were capable of being all along. There is a difference between wearing a mask and developing character. Character is built through consistency. Every time you choose honesty over convenience, discipline over comfort, learning over excuses, and responsibility over blame, you strengthen the foundation of your new identity. These small decisions may seem insignificant in the moment, but over months and years, they reshape your entire life. As your identity changes, your standards begin to rise. You stop accepting mediocrity because it no longer aligns with the person you are becoming. You become more intentional about how you spend your time, who you surround yourself with, what you read, what you watch, and how you respond to challenges. You realize that every choice either strengthens your future or weakens it. This awareness transforms ordinary days into opportunities for growth. There will be moments when the old version of yourself tries to return. Fear may whisper that you are not qualified. Doubt may remind you of past failures. Comfort may tempt you to settle for less. During those moments, remember that every meaningful transformation includes resistance. Growth always feels unfamiliar before it becomes natural. The discomfort you experience is often evidence that you are moving beyond the limits of your former identity. Your family may not immediately understand the changes taking place within you. They may question why you wake up earlier, read more books, manage your finances differently, or pursue goals that seem unrealistic. Resist the temptation to argue or seek constant approval. Instead, allow your actions to speak. Consistency is more convincing than words. Over time, people begin to trust what they repeatedly observe. Imagine the impact of becoming the first person in your family who consistently chooses discipline over distraction, learning over ignorance, gratitude over complaint, and courage over fear. Your transformation gives others permission to believe that change is possible. Children begin to imitate your habits. Friends become inspired by your determination. Family members start questioning limitations they once accepted as permanent. Without realizing it, you become living proof that a different future is available. Remember that rewriting your bloodline is not about becoming famous or proving others wrong. It is about becoming the kind of person your future generations can admire and follow. Long after they forget what you owned, they will remember how you lived. They will remember your integrity, your resilience, your generosity, and your unwavering commitment to growth. That is the true measure of success. The greatest gift you can give your family is not simply a better life, it is a better example. When you choose to become the person your family has never seen, you make it possible for future generations to become people the world has never seen. Every lasting legacy begins with one individual who dares to think differently, live differently, and refuse the limits of the past. Let that person be you. Chapter 5. Changing the habits that shape generations. Your future is rarely changed by one extraordinary day. It is changed by thousands of ordinary ones. When people look at successful families, they often notice the visible results: a thriving business, financial stability, educated children, strong relationships, or a respected reputation. What they do not see are the small habits repeated year after year that quietly created those outcomes. Every family has habits. Some are intentional, most are inherited. The question is not whether your family has habits. The question is whether those habits are creating the future you want. Habits are powerful because they operate in the background. They do not demand attention every day, yet they quietly shape your character, your finances, your health, and your relationships. One decision may seem insignificant, but repeated hundreds or thousands of times, it becomes your identity. A family that eats together regularly often builds stronger communication without even realizing it. A family that reads consistently develops curiosity almost naturally. A family that saves a small portion of every paycheck creates financial security over time. On the other hand, a family that constantly argues teaches conflict. A family that avoids difficult conversations teaches silence. A family that spends everything it earns teaches financial instability. Children rarely become what they are told. They become what they repeatedly see. That is why your daily habits matter far more than your occasional promises. You may tell your children that education is important, but if they never see you learning, your words lose their power. You may encourage discipline, but if they watch you abandon every commitment when life becomes difficult, they will remember your actions more than your advice. Example is the language every generation understands. The good news is that habits are not inherited through blood, they are inherited through repetition, and what has been repeated can be replaced. One of the most powerful philosophies for personal growth comes from Japan. It is known as Kaizen, which means continuous improvement through small, consistent steps. Instead of trying to transform your life overnight, Kaizen asks a simple question: what small improvement can I make today? It may be reading 10 pages instead of none, saving a small amount instead of spending everything, walking for 20 minutes instead of remaining inactive, learning one new skill instead of wasting another evening. These changes seem almost too small to matter, but time has a remarkable ability to multiply consistency. Imagine two people standing at the same starting line. The first person improves by just 1% every day. The second chooses to remain exactly the same. At the beginning, the difference is almost invisible. After months and years, however, the gap becomes extraordinary. This is the power of compounded habits. The same principle applies to wealth. Many people believe financial freedom begins with earning a huge salary. In reality, it often begins with small financial habits. Tracking expenses, living below your means, saving consistently, investing regularly, learning before spending. These habits may appear ordinary, but they create extraordinary results over decades. The same is true for health. One unhealthy meal does not ruin your body. One healthy meal does not transform it. The difference comes from repetition. Relationships work the same way. Trust is not built through one grand gesture. It grows through countless small moments of honesty, kindness, respect, and presence. Everything meaningful in life follows the rhythm of consistency. Unfortunately, many people underestimate the influence of negative habits because the consequences are delayed. Skipping one workout seems harmless. Ignoring one book seems insignificant. Spending a little more than you earn appears manageable. Avoiding one difficult conversation feels easier, but habits never ask for permission before they shape your future. Every repeated action casts a vote for the person you are becoming. That is why changing your bloodline begins with changing your routine. Ask yourself honestly, what does an ordinary day in my life look like? Do your mornings prepare you for success or leave you reacting to life? Do your evenings leave you wiser than when they began? Do your financial habits create freedom or dependence? Do your conversations strengthen relationships or slowly weaken them? The answers to these questions reveal the future long before it arrives. Remember, you do not need dozens of new habits at once. Trying to change everything usually results in changing nothing. Instead, choose one habit that creates momentum. Wake up 30 minutes earlier, read every day, exercise consistently, save a percentage of every paycheck. Write down your goals each morning. Practice gratitude before sleeping. Simple actions performed faithfully become extraordinary over time. As your habits improve, your environment begins to change as well. People notice your consistency, Your children notice your discipline, friends notice your calm, family members notice your financial responsibility. At first, they may ask why you have changed. Eventually, they may ask how they can change too. This is how transformation spreads, not through pressure, through example. Think about the traditions you want future generations to remember. Do you want them to remember constant financial stress? Or thoughtful stewardship? Do you want them to remember endless complaints? Or resilient optimism? Do you want them to inherit excuses? Or responsibility? Every family tradition once began as someone's personal habit. Your habits today are quietly becoming someone else's normal tomorrow. That realization should fill you with both humility and hope. You do not need to be famous to leave a legacy. You simply need to be faithful. Faithful to learning, faithful to growing, faithful to keeping your word, faithful to making choices that honor the future instead of only satisfying the present. Years from now, your children or grandchildren may never know how difficult it was for you to change. They may never see the temptation you resisted. They may never understand the sacrifices you made. What they will experience is the life your habits created. A home with greater peace, a family with stronger values, a future with more opportunities. That is the hidden beauty of disciplined living. The greatest rewards are often enjoyed by people who did not witness the struggle that produced them. So never underestimate today's small decision. 1-page read, $1 saved, one healthy meal, one honest conversation, one promise kept. These moments may appear ordinary, but ordinary moments, repeated consistently, become extraordinary lives, and extraordinary lives create extraordinary bloodlines. Your legacy is not being written only in the milestones you celebrate. It is being written in the habits you choose when no one is watching. Choose wisely, because one small habit today can become a family tradition that lasts for generations. Chapter 6. Building wealth that doesn't disappear. Money can change your lifestyle. Wealth can change your bloodline. Many people spend their entire lives working for money, yet very few learn how to make money work for them. They earn more, spend more, and repeat the cycle year after year. On the surface, life appears successful. But beneath it lies a fragile reality, one unexpected emergency, one lost job, or one financial crisis away from starting over. That is not wealth. That is dependence. If your goal is to rewrite your bloodline, you must think beyond the next paycheck. You must stop asking, "How much did I earn this month?" and begin asking, "What am I building that will still serve my family years from now?" This is the difference between income and wealth. Income is what you earn. Wealth is what you keep, grow, and pass on. Many people confuse the two. Someone earning a high salary but spending every dollar is often less financially secure than someone earning a modest income while consistently saving and investing. Wealth is not determined by appearances. It is determined by what remains after the applause has faded and the bills have been paid. The first principle of lasting wealth is simple. Spend less than you earn. It sounds almost too obvious, yet countless people ignore it. They increase their income only to increase their lifestyle. Every raise becomes a reason to spend more. Every bonus becomes an excuse for another luxury. Soon they discover that a bigger income does not always create a richer life. Real wealth begins when you learn to delay gratification. Choosing tomorrow over today is one of the most valuable financial skills you will ever develop. Every time you save instead of spending impulsively, you are telling your future, "I believe you matter." Every time you invest in an asset instead of chasing a temporary pleasure, you are planting a seed that may one day provide shade for people you will never meet. The second principle is understanding the difference between assets and liabilities. An asset generally puts money into your life or grows in value over time. A liability continuously takes money away from you. Too many people spend years collecting liabilities while believing they are building wealth. They purchase expensive possessions that lose value, finance lifestyles they cannot comfortably afford, and mistake ownership of luxury items for financial freedom. True wealth is built by acquiring things that continue working long after you stop working. Businesses, investments, skills, knowledge. These become the engines that quietly create opportunity year after year. One of the greatest examples of long-term wealth building is Warren Buffett. He did not become one of the world's wealthiest individuals by chasing quick profits or overnight success. Instead, he practiced patience, disciplined investing, and consistent learning for decades. While others searched for shortcuts, he trusted the power of time. His story teaches an important lesson. Wealth is often less about speed and more about consistency. Many people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year and underestimate what disciplined habits can accomplish over 20. The third principle is financial education. Schools often teach us how to earn a living. Few teach us how to build wealth. That responsibility belongs to each of us. Learning about budgeting, investing, taxes, business, entrepreneurship and personal finance is not optional if you hope to create lasting prosperity. Every book you read, every course you complete, and every lesson you apply increases the value of your greatest asset, your mind. Money follows value. The more problems you learn to solve, the more opportunities life places before you. Never stop investing in yourself. Skills appreciate, knowledge compounds, wisdom multiplies. The fourth principle is ownership. Employees exchange time for income. Owners create systems that continue producing value even when they are not personally present. This does not mean everyone must own a large company. Ownership can take many forms: owning investments, owning intellectual property, owning real estate, owning a small business, owning skills so valuable that opportunities naturally follow. The goal is not merely to work harder. The goal is to build something that continues working even while you rest. That is how wealth begins serving generations instead of only individuals. Of course, every financial journey includes setbacks. Markets fluctuate, businesses fail, unexpected expenses arise, mistakes happen. Do not allow temporary losses to convince you that lasting wealth is impossible. Every successful investor, entrepreneur, and business owner has experienced failure. The difference is that they treated failure as tuition, not defeat. Every lesson made them wiser. Every setback strengthened their judgment. Every challenge refined their strategy. Patience is one of the rarest financial qualities in today's world. Modern culture encourages instant gratification. Instant purchases, instant success, instant results. But wealth rarely follows the rhythm of impatience. It grows quietly, almost unnoticed, through years of wise decisions. Imagine planting a fruit tree. You do not expect fruit the next morning. You water it, protect it, nurture it, year after year. Eventually, it begins producing fruit, not only for you, but for everyone who gathers beneath its branches. Financial wealth follows the same principle. Your savings today become security tomorrow. Your investments become opportunities. Your knowledge becomes guidance for your children. Your discipline becomes your family's new financial culture. Remember, money itself is neither good nor bad. It simply magnifies character. In responsible hands, wealth builds schools, supports families, creates jobs, funds dreams, and changes communities. In careless hands, it disappears as quickly as it arrives. That is why character must always grow alongside income. Without wisdom, wealth is temporary. Without discipline, prosperity becomes fragile. Without generosity, success feels empty. As you build financial strength, remember the true purpose behind it. You are not accumulating wealth merely to own more. You are creating options. Options to educate your children, options to care for aging parents, options to support meaningful causes, options to make decisions based on purpose instead of fear. That is real freedom. One day, future generations may never fully understand the sacrifices you made. They may not know about the evenings you spent studying finances instead of seeking entertainment. They may never see the purchases you chose not to make. They may never realize how many times you chose long-term security over short-term pleasure. But they will live inside the opportunities your decisions created. That is the beauty of generational wealth. Its greatest rewards are often enjoyed by people who never witnessed its beginning. So, build patiently, learn continuously, invest wisely, live below your means, value character above possessions, and never forget this simple truth. The greatest inheritance you can leave your family is not a fortune that disappears. It is the wisdom to create wealth that lasts long after you are gone. Chapter 7. Raising a New Generation of Thinkers. Every generation leaves something behind. Some leave houses, some leave businesses, some leave debt, some leave trauma, and some leave a way of thinking that becomes the foundation for generations yet to come. When most people think about inheritance, they think about money. But money is only one part of a family's legacy. In many cases, the greatest inheritance is not found in a bank account, but in the mindset passed from parent to child, mentor to student, and leader to follower. Wealth can be lost in a single generation, but wisdom has the power to create wealth again and again. If you truly want to rewrite your bloodline, your goal cannot stop with changing your own life. The real mission is to create people who no longer need to repeat the mistakes of the past. The greatest success is not raising children who depend on your achievements. It is raising people who can build on them. Children are born curious. They ask questions about everything they see. They wonder why the sky is blue, why birds fly, why people work, and why the world functions the way it does. That curiosity is one of the greatest gifts they possess. Sadly, many people lose it as they grow older. They become afraid of asking questions, afraid of making mistakes, and afraid of thinking differently. A generation of thinkers begins with adults who refuse to silence curiosity. Instead of saying, "Because I said so," they explain. Instead of punishing every mistake, they turn mistakes into lessons. Instead of demanding perfection, they celebrate progress. They teach children that learning is a lifelong journey rather than a destination. One of the greatest gifts you can give the next generation is permission to think independently. Independent thinking does not mean rejecting wisdom or ignoring advice. It means teaching people how to evaluate information, ask better questions, and make thoughtful decisions instead of blindly following the crowd. The world has never needed more people who simply repeat what everyone else says. It needs people who can solve problems, adapt to change, and remain grounded in truth. That ability begins at home. The conversations you have around the dinner table matter. The books lying around your house matter. The way you respond to failure matters. The respect you show others matters. Children absorb far more from what they observe than from what they are told. If they see you reading, they learn that learning never stops. If they see you managing money wisely, they learn financial responsibility. If they see you apologizing when you are wrong, they learn humility. If they see you treating people with kindness regardless of status, they learn respect. Your everyday actions become their silent education. Emotional intelligence is another inheritance that can transform an entire bloodline. Many families have spent generations believing that strength means hiding emotions. They teach children to suppress sadness, ignore fear, and bury disappointment. But emotions do not disappear simply because they are ignored. They often return as anger, anxiety, bitterness, or broken relationships. Real strength is not pretending emotions do not exist. Real strength is learning how to understand them, manage them, and respond wisely. Teach the next generation that feeling afraid is normal, but allowing fear to control every decision is not. Teach them that failure is painful, but quitting is a choice. Teach them that disappointment is temporary, while character is built through perseverance. These lessons prepare people for life far better than comfort ever could. Resilience is one of the greatest qualities you can pass on. Life will disappoint everyone at some point. Dreams will take longer than expected. Plans will fail. Doors will close. People will leave. Difficult seasons are unavoidable. What matters is how a person responds. Do they give up at the first obstacle, or do they adapt, learn, and continue moving forward? Resilient people understand that setbacks are not permanent. They know that failure is information, not identity. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to become wiser, stronger, and more prepared for the future. That mindset changes everything. Another essential lesson is financial wisdom. Many parents hope to leave money for their children. Fewer teach them how to manage it. History is filled with stories of fortunes built over decades and lost within a few years because the next generation inherited wealth without inheriting wisdom. Money without character becomes dangerous. Opportunity without discipline often disappears. The goal is not simply to provide resources. The goal is to develop responsibility. Teach children how money is earned, how it is saved, how it grows through investing, and how generosity gives wealth a greater purpose. Help them understand the difference between buying things that impress others and building assets that create lasting freedom. Many successful entrepreneurs around the world choose to teach their children financial responsibility long before handing them significant wealth. They encourage them to work, solve problems, earn their own money, and understand the value of patience. They know that protecting character is more important than protecting comfort. This principle extends beyond parenting. Perhaps you do not have children. That does not mean you cannot influence the next generation. You may mentor a younger colleague. You may encourage a student. You may inspire a nephew, niece, neighbor, or friend. Every meaningful conversation plants a seed. Every act of integrity becomes an example. Every lesson shared with sincerity has the potential to shape a future you may never witness. Never underestimate the power of your influence. People often remember one encouraging sentence for the rest of their lives. One teacher can inspire a scientist. One coach can build a leader. One mentor can awaken an entrepreneur. One compassionate conversation can restore someone's confidence. You may never know how far your influence travels. That is the beauty of legacy. It continues working long after the moment has passed. As you build a new family culture, celebrate qualities that truly matter. Praise honesty more than popularity. Celebrate effort more than talent. Reward curiosity more than perfection. Encourage kindness as much as achievement. Teach gratitude before entitlement. When these values become part of everyday life, they slowly become the identity of the family itself. Imagine a future where your grandchildren grow up believing that reading is normal, saving is normal, investing is normal, serving others is normal, speaking respectfully is normal, and continuing to learn is simply what your family does. Imagine them facing challenges with confidence because resilience has become part of their character. Imagine them making wise financial decisions because stewardship has become part of your family's culture. Imagine them treating others with dignity because compassion has become a tradition. That is how bloodlines are transformed, not by one extraordinary event, but by thousands of ordinary lessons consistently lived. One day, future generations may never know the names of every sacrifice you made. They may never realize how many fears you conquered or how many difficult decisions you faced. But they will live in the world your choices created. They will think differently because you thought differently. They will dream bigger because you dared to dream first. They will walk through doors that exist because you had the courage to build them. That is the true measure of success. It is not how much wealth you leave behind. It is how many wise, compassionate, resilient, and responsible people continue moving forward because you chose to rewrite your bloodline. Chapter 8. Forgiveness without forgetting. Some of the heaviest burdens in life cannot be seen. They are not carried in your hands. They are carried in your heart. Many people spend years believing they are trapped by poverty, limited opportunities, or difficult circumstances. While these challenges are real, there is another burden that quietly steals peace, confidence, and purpose from countless lives: unforgiveness. It is the anger that never healed, the disappointment that never faded, the betrayal that never stopped replaying in the mind, the words spoken years ago that still echo in the heart. If you want to rewrite your bloodline, there is one truth you cannot escape. You cannot build a peaceful future while carrying the weight of an unresolved past. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood words in the world. Many people believe forgiving someone means pretending nothing happened. Others believe it means excusing harmful behavior or allowing people to continue hurting them. Some fear that forgiveness somehow erases justice or minimizes their pain. But forgiveness is none of those things. Forgiveness does not erase the past. It does not say the pain was acceptable. It does not remove accountability. And it certainly does not require you to trust someone who has repeatedly broken your trust. Forgiveness is something much deeper. It is choosing to stop allowing yesterday's pain to control today's decisions. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack every day. At first, you barely notice its weight because you have become accustomed to it. But over time, every step becomes more exhausting. Every climb feels more difficult. The burden slows your progress, not because the road is impossible, but because you are carrying far more than you were ever meant to carry. Bitterness works the same way. The person who hurt you may have already moved on with their life. Yet every day, you continue carrying the emotional weight of what happened. Eventually, the burden becomes so familiar that you mistake it for part of your identity. But it is not. You were never meant to live that way. Many of the emotional patterns passed from one generation to the next begin with unresolved pain. A father who was never encouraged struggles to encourage his children. A mother who never experienced emotional safety may find it difficult to create it for others. Someone who was constantly criticized often becomes overly critical. Someone who experienced betrayal may struggle to trust anyone. Pain has a remarkable ability to repeat itself when it remains unhealed. People often give away what they have received. If they received kindness, they give kindness. If they received patience, they give patience. But if they received anger, shame, or emotional neglect, they may unknowingly pass those wounds to the next generation. This is how cycles continue, not because people are evil, but because unhealed pain often becomes inherited behavior. Breaking that cycle begins with one courageous decision. Someone must choose healing over revenge. Someone must choose peace over bitterness. Someone must decide that the pain ends here. Let that someone be you. Forgiveness is not a single emotional moment. It is often a process. Some wounds heal quickly, others take time. There may be days when old memories return and emotions feel fresh again. That does not mean you have failed. Healing is rarely a straight path. It moves forward through patience, honesty, and grace. Give yourself permission to heal without rushing the process. At the same time, do not confuse healing with holding on. There comes a moment when constantly reliving the past stops protecting you and starts imprisoning you. Ask yourself an honest question. Is this pain teaching me something valuable, or is it simply keeping me stuck? Growth begins when you stop allowing old wounds to make new decisions. There is another kind of forgiveness that is often even more difficult. Forgiving yourself. Many people become their own harshest judge. They replay every bad decision, every missed opportunity, every relationship that ended, every financial mistake, every moment they wish they could change. Instead of learning from those experiences, they build an identity around them. They begin saying things like, "I'm a failure. I always make bad decisions. I'll never be good enough." But mistakes are events. They are not identities. Every wise person has made foolish decisions. Every successful person has experienced failure. Every confident person has faced seasons of doubt. Your past decisions may explain where you have been. They do not determine where you are capable of going. Forgiving yourself means accepting responsibility without accepting permanent condemnation. It means learning the lesson while releasing the shame. It means understanding that growth is impossible if you spend your entire life punishing yourself for yesterday. One of the greatest gifts you can give your family is emotional freedom. Imagine children growing up in a home where disagreements end with honest conversations instead of years of silence. Imagine relationships built on understanding instead of pride. Imagine a family where apologies are not seen as weakness but as strength. Imagine generations learning that love is stronger than resentment. This is how emotional wealth is created. Long before financial wealth becomes stable, there is an old saying that holding on to anger is like drinking poison while expecting someone else to suffer. Whether or not those exact words resonate with you, the principle is undeniable. Bitterness harms the person carrying it more than the person who caused it. Peace begins the moment you decide that your future deserves more attention than your past. This does not mean forgetting the lessons. In fact, wisdom often comes from remembering. You remember the boundaries you need. You remember the standards you deserve. You remember the importance of choosing healthy relationships. You remember the strength you discovered while surviving difficult seasons. You carry the lesson. You release the burden. That is the difference. As you continue rewriting your bloodline, understand that true freedom is not found in pretending the past never existed. True freedom comes when the past no longer has the power to define your future. The people who hurt you may have influenced your beginning. They do not have to control your ending. Today, you have a choice. You can continue carrying wounds that grow heavier with time. Or you can begin laying them down, one decision at a time. Choose healing, choose peace, choose freedom, because the greatest revenge is not proving someone wrong. It is building such a meaningful, peaceful, and purposeful life that the pain which once defined you becomes only one chapter in a much greater story. And that story is the one future generations will inherit. Chapter 9. The Courage to Stand Alone. Every person who changes a bloodline eventually walks a lonely road. There is a moment in every transformation when the applause disappears, the encouragement becomes quiet, and the only voice left is your own. It is in that moment that many people turn back, not because they lack ability, but because they mistake loneliness for failure. The truth is, if you choose to think differently, live differently, and dream differently from the people around you, there will be seasons when you feel alone. That is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. Very often, it is evidence that you have stepped onto a new one. Most people naturally seek acceptance. We want our families to understand us. We hope our friends will celebrate our progress. We imagine that when we decide to improve our lives, everyone around us will be excited for us. Reality is often different. The moment you begin changing your habits, some people will become uncomfortable. When you stop wasting money, others may call you cheap. When you begin reading instead of endlessly scrolling through social media, they may say you have changed. When you choose discipline over comfort, they may accuse you of thinking you are better than everyone else. The painful truth is that not everyone will celebrate your growth. Sometimes your transformation reminds people of the changes they have been avoiding in their own lives. It is easier to criticize someone who is moving forward than to admit you have been standing still. Do not allow their discomfort to become your destination. Remember why you started. You did not begin this journey to impress people. You began because you refused to let another generation inherit the same limitations. That purpose is bigger than temporary approval. History is filled with individuals who stood alone before others stood beside them. Every inventor who challenged conventional thinking, every entrepreneur who started with nothing, every reformer who questioned injustice, every visionary who imagined a better future. Before they were admired, they were often misunderstood. Progress has always required the courage to be different. Think about Nelson Mandela. For years, he remained committed to justice despite imprisonment, isolation, and unimaginable hardship. He could have surrendered to bitterness or abandoned his vision. Instead, he chose perseverance over resentment. His courage reminds us that standing alone for what is right often comes before standing together in victory. Your journey may not involve changing a nation, but changing a family legacy requires the same kind of quiet courage. It requires believing in a future that no one else can yet see. One of the greatest challenges you will face is overcoming the fear of criticism. People will have opinions about your decisions. Some will question why you work so hard. Others will wonder why you refuse to participate in habits that no longer serve you. Some may even laugh at your dreams. Do not let their words become louder than your purpose. Criticism has stopped more dreams than failure ever has. Many people abandon extraordinary futures simply because they fear ordinary opinions. Ask yourself this question: whose approval are you living for? If your happiness depends on everyone agreeing with your choices, you will spend your life chasing acceptance instead of purpose. There is freedom in realizing that not everyone needs to understand your vision. Some people are only able to recognize success after it becomes obvious. Your responsibility is not to convince them. Your responsibility is to remain faithful to the path you have chosen. There will also be moments when progress feels invisible. You will save money without immediately seeing financial freedom. You will read books without instantly becoming wiser. You will exercise without seeing dramatic physical changes. You will work on your character while nobody notices. Those are the moments that define your future. Anyone can remain motivated when results are immediate. The people who rewrite bloodlines continue when results are hidden. Imagine planting seeds in a field. For weeks, nothing appears above the ground. If you judged your progress only by what you could see, you might conclude that nothing was happening. But beneath the surface, roots are growing. Life works the same way. The deepest growth is often invisible. Never confuse invisible progress with lack of progress. Patience is not passive. It is disciplined trust. Another challenge is learning to become comfortable with temporary loneliness. Loneliness and isolation are not always the same. Isolation pushes people away. Loneliness is sometimes the temporary cost of becoming someone your old environment does not yet understand. Do not allow loneliness to make you return to habits that no longer belong in your future. Instead, use that season wisely. Read more, learn more, strengthen your skills, deepen your faith. Develop your character. Prepare yourself for the opportunities that are coming. The quiet seasons of life often become the foundation for the loud victories everyone notices later. At the same time, remember that standing alone does not mean refusing support forever. As you grow, seek relationships that encourage excellence. Spend time with people who challenge your thinking instead of reinforcing your excuses. Choose mentors who inspire wisdom. Build friendships rooted in honesty, integrity, and shared values. The people around you shape your expectations. Surround yourself with those who make you believe greater things are possible. There is another reason courage matters. Your example gives others permission to change. At first, your family may question your discipline. Months later, someone may quietly ask how you became so consistent. Today, your friends may laugh at your commitment to learning. Tomorrow, they may ask which books changed your life. People are often inspired by results they once criticized. Your consistency becomes your strongest argument. Never underestimate the influence of quiet perseverance. Children notice it. Friends notice it. Co-workers notice it. Even strangers notice it. Every day you remain faithful to your values, you prove that lasting change is possible. One day, someone in your family may face a difficult decision. Instead of repeating an old pattern, they will remember your example. They will remember the person who stayed disciplined when others gave up, the person who chose integrity over shortcuts, the person who continued believing when no one else believed. That memory may become the turning point in their own life. This is why courage matters. Not because it makes life easy, but because it makes transformation possible. As you continue rewriting your bloodline, there will be days when doubt whispers that your efforts are too small. Ignore that voice. Every great legacy was once invisible. Every mighty tree was once a seed. Every successful family was once one courageous individual making ordinary decisions with extraordinary consistency. Perhaps that individual is you, so keep walking, keep learning, keep growing. Stand firm even when the road feels lonely. Because one day, the path you are walking alone will become the road your family proudly follows. And they will remember that everything changed because one person had the courage to stand alone before anyone else was willing to stand beside them. Chapter 10. Building a Legacy Beyond Money. When people hear the word legacy, their minds often go straight to wealth. They imagine bank accounts, real estate, businesses, or valuable possessions passed from one generation to the next. While these things certainly matter, they are only part of the picture. A fortune can disappear in a single generation if it is placed in the hands of people who lack wisdom, discipline, and character. History has shown this time and again. Families have built incredible wealth over decades, only to watch it vanish because the next generation inherited money without inheriting the values that created it. True legacy is never measured only by what you leave behind. It is measured by what continues to grow because you once lived. It is the impact your life has on people long after your name is no longer spoken every day. It is found in the lessons you teach, the example you set, the love you give, and the values you choose to live by. Money may open doors, but character determines what happens after those doors are opened. Imagine two families. The first leaves millions of dollars to the next generation, but never teaches responsibility, gratitude, or discipline. The second leaves a smaller financial inheritance, but spends years teaching honesty, hard work, generosity, emotional resilience, and financial wisdom. Which family is more likely to continue growing over the next 50 years? In most cases, it is the second. Wealth without wisdom fades, but wisdom has the remarkable ability to create wealth again and again. One of the greatest gifts you can pass on is integrity. Integrity means your values remain the same whether someone is watching or not. It means telling the truth when a lie would be easier. It means keeping your promises even when breaking them would be more convenient. It means choosing what is right instead of what is popular. In a world where shortcuts often appear rewarding, integrity becomes a rare form of wealth. People trust those whose words and actions match, and trust is one of the most valuable assets anyone can possess. Another part of a lasting legacy is kindness. Many people underestimate its power because it cannot be measured on a financial statement. Yet one act of genuine kindness can influence a person's life for years. Think about the teacher who believed in a struggling student, the neighbor who offered help during difficult times, or the stranger whose encouragement arrived at exactly the right moment. Those moments often become unforgettable. Long after people forget what you owned, they will remember how you made them feel. Generosity is another pillar of a meaningful legacy. Many believe generosity begins when they become wealthy, but generosity is not determined by the size of your bank account. It is determined by the condition of your heart. Some of the most generous people have very little money, while some of the wealthiest struggle to give anything at all. Generosity means sharing your time, knowledge, encouragement, opportunities, and resources whenever possible. It reminds us that success is most meaningful when it improves the lives of others. A powerful example of this principle can be seen in people like Andrew Carnegie. Although he became one of the wealthiest industrialists of his time, he believed that wealth carried responsibility. He devoted much of his fortune to building libraries, educational institutions, and charitable foundations because he understood that knowledge could transform lives for generations. His financial success was significant, but the opportunities he created through generosity became an even greater legacy. Legacy is also built through relationships. It is easy to become so focused on achieving goals that we unintentionally neglect the people who matter most. Years from now, your children are unlikely to remember how many hours you spent at the office, but they will remember whether you listened to them, encouraged them, and made them feel valued. Your spouse will remember your presence more than your possessions. Your friends will remember your loyalty more than your accomplishments. Success means very little if it is achieved at the cost of the people you love. Another important part of legacy is purpose. Every person has unique abilities, experiences, and opportunities that can be used to serve others. Some people teach, some build businesses, some create jobs, some write books, some mentor young people, some care for the elderly. Others quietly support their communities in ways that never make headlines. No contribution is too small when it is made with sincerity. A life lived with purpose creates ripples that continue long after the original act has been forgotten. It is also important to remember that children rarely inherit values through lectures alone. They inherit them by observation. If they see honesty practiced daily, honesty becomes normal. If they see gratitude expressed regularly, gratitude becomes part of their character. If they see hard work balanced with compassion, they learn that success and kindness can exist together. Your lifestyle is constantly teaching, even when you are saying nothing at all. There will come a day when everything you own will belong to someone else. Houses will change hands. Businesses will have new owners. Bank accounts will be transferred. Material possessions are temporary by nature, but the values you plant in people have the potential to outlive every physical possession you ever acquire. That is why investing in character is one of the wisest investments you will ever make. As you continue rewriting your bloodline, remember that your goal is not simply to create a wealthy family. Your goal is to create a family that knows how to handle wealth with humility, use influence with wisdom, and treat success as an opportunity to serve rather than to boast. A family with these qualities can overcome challenges, rebuild after setbacks, and continue growing for generations. One day, your children or grandchildren may not remember the exact amount of money you earned. They may never know every sacrifice you made or every obstacle you overcame. But they will remember the atmosphere you created. They will remember whether your home was filled with encouragement or criticism, gratitude or entitlement, honesty or deception, hope or fear. Those memories will shape the way they raise their own children, and in that way, your influence will continue long after your lifetime. The greatest legacy is not leaving people with more possessions. It is leaving them with stronger character, clearer purpose, deeper wisdom, and a standard of living that inspires them to become better human beings. Money may provide comfort, but values provide direction. Wealth may change circumstances, but character changes generations. And when character becomes the foundation of a family's future, the legacy you leave behind becomes far greater than anything money alone could ever buy. Chapter 11. Becoming the Ancestor. Future Generations Thank. Most people spend their lives thinking about the next weekend, the next paycheck, or the next promotion. Their decisions are shaped by what they need today, and while there is nothing wrong with planning for the near future, truly extraordinary people think much further ahead. They make choices with people in mind whom they may never meet. They understand that every generation is living in a story that someone before them began writing. One day, you will become part of someone else's history. Perhaps your grandchildren will tell stories about you. Perhaps your great-grandchildren will know your name only through old photographs and family memories. Or perhaps they will never know your name at all, yet they will still benefit from the choices you made. That is the remarkable power of legacy. The greatest impact you have may be felt long after your lifetime has ended. Imagine standing 100 years in the future. Picture a child laughing in a home that exists because you made wise financial decisions. Imagine a young student attending university because your family valued education. Imagine someone confidently starting a business because courage became part of your family's identity. Those people may never fully understand the sacrifices that made their opportunities possible, but they will live inside the future you helped create. This perspective changes the way you approach everyday life. Suddenly, saving money is no longer just about your retirement. It becomes an investment in future opportunities. Learning new skills is no longer only about your career. It becomes a gift of wisdom that can be shared with future generations. Choosing honesty is no longer just about protecting your reputation. It becomes the foundation of a family culture built on trust. Every ordinary decision gains extraordinary meaning when viewed through the lens of generations. Too often, people inherit problems instead of possibilities. They inherit debt instead of financial freedom, fear instead of confidence, conflict instead of peace, excuses instead of responsibility. Without realizing it, each generation passes unfinished burdens to the next. Someone grows up believing they are not capable because no one before them believed it either. Someone avoids opportunities because fear has become a family tradition. Someone struggles with relationships because healthy communication was never modeled. These patterns continue until one person becomes courageous enough to interrupt them. That person does not erase history. They simply refuse to repeat it. Perhaps that person is you. The beautiful truth about rewriting a bloodline is that you do not have to be perfect. You simply have to be intentional. Perfect people do not exist. Intentional people change history. They ask different questions. Instead of asking, "What do I want right now?" they ask, "What will this decision mean 10 or 20 years from now?" Instead of wondering, "How can I make life easier today?" they ask, "How can I make life better for those who come after me?" Those questions transform priorities. Short-term pleasure begins losing its power. Long-term purpose becomes more valuable. One of the greatest examples of this kind of thinking is the way many people plant trees whose shade they know they may never sit under. A farmer plants an orchard knowing that the richest harvest may come years later. An architect designs buildings that will outlive them. A teacher pours knowledge into students whose greatest accomplishments may happen decades after graduation. These people understand something profound. Not every meaningful reward belongs to the person who begins the work. Sometimes the greatest reward is knowing someone else will benefit because you chose to act. Your family deserves that kind of thinking. Imagine creating traditions that continue for generations. A tradition of reading together. A tradition of honest conversations. A tradition of investing instead of wasting. A tradition of serving others. A tradition of celebrating effort, integrity and gratitude more than status and possessions. These traditions may seem ordinary today, but over time they become part of your family's identity. People often ask what separates extraordinary families from ordinary ones. It is rarely intelligence. It is rarely luck. More often, it is the consistent practice of meaningful values. Families that continue growing over generations usually have clear principles. They communicate openly. They encourage education. They respect hard work. They value financial wisdom. They care for one another during difficult seasons. These qualities become stronger every time they are practiced. You have the opportunity to establish those principles today. Perhaps no one taught them to you. Teach them anyway. Perhaps no one encouraged your dreams. Encourage someone else's. Perhaps you grew up without financial education. Learn it and pass it forward. Perhaps your family struggled to express love. Become the first to say the words others were afraid to speak. Every positive action becomes a gift to the future. There is another important truth to remember. Being an ancestor worth remembering is not about becoming famous. Most people who have transformed generations were never known around the world. They were known at home. They were the parent who never stopped believing, the grandparent who worked tirelessly with quiet dignity, the teacher who inspired confidence, the mentor who offered wisdom without expecting recognition, the neighbor who consistently chose kindness. Greatness is often found in ordinary people who remain faithful to extraordinary values. Do not underestimate the influence of your daily example. Someone is always watching. Children observe how you handle disappointment. Friends notice how you respond to success. Co-workers see whether you choose honesty when shortcuts are available. Your actions quietly answer questions that your words never could. That is how culture is built, not through speeches, through consistent behavior. As you think about your future, imagine sitting with your great-grandchildren many decades from now. Imagine them asking, "What made everything different for our family?" What would you want the answer to be? Would it be a lucky opportunity, or would it be the day you decided that fear would no longer guide your decisions? Would it be the day you committed to learning, growing, forgiving, investing, and leading with integrity? Would it be the moment you realized your life was never just about you? Every chapter of this audiobook has led to this understanding. Changing your bloodline is not only about escaping hardship, it is about creating hope. It is about building foundations so strong that future generations begin life from a higher place than you did. It is about replacing inherited limitations with inherited wisdom. One day, someone in your family may enjoy opportunities that feel completely normal to them. They may assume financial stability, emotional health, education, and strong relationships have always existed. They may never fully appreciate how much courage it took to create that reality, and that is perfectly fine, because true legacy has never been about receiving applause. It has always been about giving others a better beginning. So live in a way that future generations will look back with gratitude. Make decisions that outlive your lifetime. Become the person who planted trees whose shade you would never sit beneath. Become the ancestor whose courage became someone else's opportunity. Because the greatest compliment your descendants could ever give you is this: everything we have today began because one person decided our family's future would be different. Chapter 12. Rewrite Your Bloodline. Begins with one decision. Every transformation has a beginning, but the beginning is rarely dramatic. It does not always arrive with applause. It does not always arrive with clarity. It often begins quietly, in the middle of an ordinary day, when something inside you finally says, enough. Enough of repeating the same cycle. Enough of accepting less than you are capable of becoming. Enough of watching the future shrink because the past keeps speaking louder than possibility. That is the moment everything changes. Not because the world suddenly becomes easier, but because you decide that your life will no longer be ruled by inherited limits. That is what rewriting your bloodline truly means. It is not about pretending the past never happened. It is not about denying the sacrifices, struggles, and pain that shaped you. It is about refusing to let those things become the ceiling of your future. For too long, many people have lived as though they were only the product of what came before them. They carried family pain as if it were destiny. They carried poverty as if it were identity. They carried fear as if it were wisdom. But you were never meant to be a prisoner of repetition. You were meant to be a turning point. A single decision can start that turning point. The decision to learn when others remain ignorant. The decision to save when others spend without thought. The decision to forgive when others remain bitter. The decision to grow when others stay comfortable. The decision to lead when others wait to be led. The decision to believe that your family's future can become different because your choices become different. That is how legacies begin. Not with perfection, but with direction. You do not need to have every answer before you start. You do not need unlimited money, flawless confidence, or a perfect environment. What you need is clarity about the kind of future you are choosing to build. The future you create is not made by accident. It is made by repeated decisions, shaped by discipline, and strengthened by purpose. Think about a seed. On the surface, it looks small and unimpressive. No one would guess that it carries the potential to become a mighty tree. But when placed in the right soil and given time, that seed begins a process no one can fully see in the beginning. Roots form, strength develops. Growth continues in silence before it ever becomes visible. Your decision works the same way. The moment you choose to rewrite your bloodline, growth begins beneath the surface. Your thoughts begin to shift. Your habits begin to change. Your standards begin to rise. Your vision becomes larger than your present circumstances. Slowly, your life starts moving in a new direction, even before the results become obvious to anyone else. This is why commitment matters more than emotion. Emotion is powerful, but it changes quickly. Commitment is deeper. Commitment remains when motivation fades. Commitment stays when results are delayed. Commitment keeps moving when the path is uncertain. If you want to build a legacy that lasts, you must become someone who does not quit when the first excitement disappears. The future of your bloodline will not be changed by one inspiring moment alone. It will be changed by the decisions you make after that moment. What will you do when no one notices? What will you do when the old habits return? What will you do when the comfort of the familiar tries to pull you back? Your answers to those questions determine whether this chapter becomes the end of an old cycle or the beginning of a new one. Generational change is not built in a single day, but it can begin in a single day. One decision to rise early, one decision to read, one decision to save, one decision to apologize, one decision to try again, one decision to stop speaking defeat over your life. One decision to become the example you wish someone had shown you. Your descendants may never know how many private battles you fought. They may never see the tears, the discipline, the doubt, or the sacrifice. They may never understand how difficult it was to choose a different path when everyone around you had settled for less. But they will live inside the results of your courage. They will inherit opportunities because you refuse to remain stuck. They will enjoy peace because you chose healing. They will benefit from wisdom because you chose growth. They will walk on stronger ground because you chose to build it. That is the power of one decision. One decision can become a habit, one habit can become a character, one character can become a legacy, and one legacy can shape generations. So do not wait for the perfect season. Do not wait for permission. Do not wait for the past to become easier to carry. The time to begin is now. The moment to rewrite your bloodline is the moment you choose it. You may not be able to change everything today, but you can change something today. And often that is how the greatest transformations begin. Take the first step, then the next, then the next. Keep going until the old story loses its power and a new one begins to rise in its place. Because the greatest inheritance you can leave behind is not what you received. It is what you chose to create. And it all begins with one decision. If you've made it this far, take a moment to appreciate something important. You are no longer the same person who started this journey. Perhaps your circumstances haven't changed yet. Your bank account may look the same. Your challenges may still be waiting for you tomorrow, but something far more valuable has begun to change: your perspective. And every lasting transformation begins there. Throughout this audiobook, you've discovered that rewriting your bloodline is not about changing your last name, your past, or where you came from. It's about changing the decisions you make every single day. It's about replacing fear with courage, excuses with responsibility, resentment with healing, and short-term thinking with a vision that reaches far beyond your own lifetime. Remember, your family history is the opening chapter of your story, not the final one. You have the power to become the person who ends generations of limitation and begins generations of possibility. There will be difficult days ahead. There will be moments when progress feels slow and the old habits call you back. In those moments, remember why you started. You're not building a better life only for yourself. You're creating opportunities for people you may never meet, but who will one day benefit from your courage, your discipline, and your wisdom. Years from now, someone in your family may enjoy a life that feels completely normal to them because you chose to do what was uncommon today. So leave this audiobook with one promise to yourself. The cycle ends with me. The legacy begins with me. Your bloodline is not rewritten by one perfect moment. It is rewritten by one faithful decision, repeated every single day. Now go and write a story that generations will be grateful to inherit.